Here we go.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We are going to try to be as concise as possible, but the topic is really broad. So let me stress on the following. This is the same thing I've been talking for several weeks. Try not to miss the big picture. Why? Because we are in very broad topic, which is the cognitive analytic, the relation between contemporary AI, what it is, what is different between contemporary AI and traditional AI, how it matches together with what is data science because of machine learning being heard of the today AI. So all these things are in the reading. And not all of them are directly related with the assignment. So my point is exactly because of this. The assignment is selected to cover portion of the topic of the module, which is 3 weeks. There is no way you can do practical assignment, a project in everything we have to cover in 3 weeks. So just that is my point. Don't miss the big picture, even though you are doing something very specific, and as Elena pointed, very cool and interesting. And I suggest you take it this way. Just Elena, go ahead.
Okay, absolutely. So what we're gonna do today, well, probably most of you know what's a chatbot, right? And I'm gonna show you the list, remind you the list of key chatbot terminology, and I will show you how to apply the terminology to build Mr. BMI chatbot application. Well, you're gonna get a lot of tips and tricks and best practices for assignment 4. And of course, there's gonna be hopefully some time for questions. But before we do this, well, I just have to stress it. So first of all, make sure that your dialogue is ready 3 days before the assignment is due. Why? Because there are certain steps in the assignment, like training the chatbot, it's going to take 2 days. So please make sure you leave in yourself 2 days. And also building the connection between what's an assistant, and I'll show you directly what I mean, and the discovery service, right? That could take a little bit of troubleshooting. Okay, so, and please make sure that your IBM Cloud account is active, right? Please do not enter the credit card number, okay? And there were some questions, I'm gonna clarify something soon. Please do not submit any tickets to IBM unless I tell you most of the time I want. Please do not deactivate your account, right? Before you start working on assignment, make sure that you get at least 70% on the chatbot key concepts. It's auto-graded quiz, right? Make sure that you do the walkthrough, but the walkthrough is sequential. So basically, you cannot skip the ungraded exercise and move to the next page, because what you see on the next page builds on the ungraded exercise. Or it could be something like this. Ungraded exercise shows you the problem. On the next page, it shows how to fix it. Or ungraded exercise could be add a node. And then on the next page, you use that node, right? Something like that. Now, what you develop for assignment 4, it must be your original work. So in other words, you cannot submit Mr. Cold, or you cannot submit Mr. BMI, right? You have to develop the chatbot on your topic. Well, I would recommend choose something that you're familiar with, something that is your hobby, or something that you might be reading a lot about, something like that, okay? Now, all of you hopefully know how to count until 2, because you need to submit 2 files, the paper and a JSON file with Chatbot Implementation, because your paper cannot be graded without the JSON file, all right? Remember that deletions cannot be done. Once you delete something, right, delete the skill, dialog skill, hopefully everybody understands what I'm talking about, right, vocabulary. Unless you exported the JSON file, if you delete something, you're gonna lose all your work. And please, for this specific assignment, the mistakes that you can make is not asking for help. This code is applicable to this assignment, okay? Now, this is a must know. The list is big, so you have something like that in the course content, don't you? Well, but you need to make sure that you know this vocabulary, because whenever you ask for help, I'm going to be using this vocabulary, okay? Like, for example, I'm going to say add a handler. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, what you're going to do, you're going to check the vocabulary, right? All right, so what are we doing exactly? So a bot is just a general system. It's used to solve the specific problem, right? It runs based on rules, and it just based on rules that trigger it, it's just automatic, right? But on the other hand, chatbot, it understands the human language. So for example, I can ask, what is the blood pressure? And it can give you information on the blood pressure, right? Something like that. So chatbot is a human language, or I can say something like, what's a heart attack? And it's gonna give me information on the heart attack, right? Or it's gonna ask me, I said, okay, can you calculate my BMI? And then it's gonna ask me, hey, Elena, hey, what is your height? What is your weight? And etc. Right? Okay. So basically, it's an interaction. It can give me information. It can ask me for information, right? Now, this is what you're gonna do. Just a high-level step. We're going to, and exactly what I'll show you, we're gonna define the application purpose. You're gonna define the conversation scenario, right? And build a flow diagram. The conversation scenario is just a pass through the conversation flow diagram. You're gonna use the Watson Assistant service to implement your chatbot dialogue, right? You're gonna train your application through testing the defined scenario on the topic. Then what you're also going to do, you're going to integrate it with Watson Discovery Service. Because what the idea is, you want to be able to search the latest collection of online documents, right, related on your topic to answer the questions. Like, for instance, sometimes the chatbot does not quite handle your question, right? It does not quite handle, but it might be able to look up the topic in Watson Discovery. Watson Discovery builds sort of like an index, if you will, right? It builds a repository of the documents, all right? And then you're gonna, well, you're not gonna actually deploy the application, but you're gonna develop the preview link, right? You're gonna send that link to your friends, and you're gonna monitor the conversation log and train the application further. Then what you're also gonna do is you're gonna identify some limitations in your current application version, and you're gonna suggest some enhancements. And also just imagine that you are integrating with other services. This one, you don't need to do that, but imagine there is a speech to text, text to speech, and etc., right? Like, for example, if I ask what the blood pressure is, for instance, sometimes application could just speak to me, right? Well, something like that. Think about it, and think about maybe mobile-enabled chatbot, something along this line, okay? Now, but what we are doing here, what did I prepare for you? I have a chatbot, which I call Mr. BMI, right? Application, that's the name I made up. And the application is going to be available 24/7. You don't need to pay anything. So you're not going to be doing like a web search for hours to calculate your body mass index, but it's going to prompt you for the your height and weight, and you're going to get that calculation for you. Your results are going to be confidential, and the conversation will start just by greetings, and you're going to see the menu of what you want to do, right? You may exit, you should be able to exit the conversation at any time. And also, the answers should be consistent. Like, for example, suppose that my blood pressure is, if I enter my blood pressure is 115/75, and if Professor Azan enters the same blood pressure, right, we both gonna get that it's a normal reading, right? Now, but to answer new questions, application requires training. But let's see what's gonna happen. Imagine that we have a hypothetical office, doctor office, and in my doctor office, I have 3 doctors, Mr. Monitor, Miss Stethoscope, and Mr. BMI. Those are 3 doctors, and here I wrote down the hours that they work on, right? Well, okay, so this is the hours that they work on, and I try to match the clocks that you see here. Okay, so basically, when a user launches the chatbot, the doctor who is now on duty is gonna welcome the user and present the menu. So let's just go ahead and do that. It's not this, oops. So sometimes, so what we, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share it. Okay, it's in here. So basically, this is what it is. It's a simple website that you're gonna be, it's a preview, it's a chatbot preview, right? And I'll show you how to get that link. So do you see this picture here? You see this missed stethoscope because I launched this chatbot before 8 p.m. Eastern, right? Or in my case, my PC shows the Pacific time zone. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's refresh. Let's refresh. Okay, now you're gonna see a different picture, but wait a minute, look at this. This is how it looks like. This is a little bit new interface. Do you see this little bubble? You need to click on this bubble and it will open the chatbot. So see this? This is the first thing that you notice. It's a different guy, right? So I'm doing something. Depending on the time of the day, I'm showing a different image here. It says now, good evening. I'm Mr. BMI calculator. How may I help you? And here it gives you a list of options to select from. Well, this is really convenient because if you have something to choose from, it's more likely that you're gonna get what you need, right? So now I'm gonna select estimate my BMI. Basically, the way the options work is this is equivalent to me typing estimate BMI, okay? Now it's asking me for my height. And notice this, if I type, just spell out 60, it's gonna recognize the same as the number 60, all right? So what am I doing here? Think about it. Well, I typed that I'm 60 inches, right? And it recognizes it. Now it's asking me how many pounds do I weigh, right? Okay, so I'm gonna click on and what is it gonna do right now? It's gonna calculate the BMI. See this? BMI 24 healthy weight, right? Well, now let's refresh this, right? Let's restart the conversation. Well, usually in most of the scenarios, I display the menu where it asks what you want to do next. But let's take a look at this. So again, right, this is Mr. BMI. This is going to be another scenario. Another scenario is going to be, I'm going to ask, what is BMI? Suppose that I have no clue what is BMI. Now take a look at what's going to happen right now. Well, it's doing something, thinking. Now, well, this is a hard-coded text, right? And this is my image, right? This is hard-coded, but what is this? Well, what is this, guys? Where does this come from? This is an integration with what? With Discovery Service. So what it's doing is that I build the repository of the information, right? Repository of the health document. And what this does is it connects to the repositories that I built, and it pulls the articles related to BMI. See this? Okay. So it's just showing me the top 3 searches in this case, right? Now, another thing that you can do is you can select, there is another one, what's the blood pressure? That one is the same. It's gonna try to pull the articles related to blood pressure. But before it does this, this is what I hard-coded, right? But the thing is, the text that is hard-coded, it's not gonna be, it does not change, right? But the whole idea is that the medical information, medical guidelines change over time. New articles appear over time. I want to be able to pull the latest and greatest, right? So the way it's done is the integration with Discovery Service. So you see this stuff? These are the articles that I'm getting, right, through integration with Discovery Service. And that's a blood pressure chart, that's an image, right? Now it's asking me again what I want to do. And in this case, I want to do my blood pressure. I want to know what my blood pressure actually tells me, right? But suppose that see here, I'm asked to enter the high reading right now. but suppose that I was not paying attention and I'm going to enter something like this, irrelevant. What is it going to do? It does not recognize the number in input, and it's asking me to enter my number again, right? And I'm just going to put this, right? This is systolic blood pressure. Now it's going to ask me to enter the diastolic blood pressure, right? So I'm just going to put this. What's it going to tell me? It's supposed to say that I'm elevated, right? Let's see. The message that it gives me depends on the actual reading. See this? It's elevated. Adopt healthy lifestyle. Now it's asking me what I want to do next, etc. Okay. Now this is another good one. Email me the information is another scenario. So here you need to enter an email address. But if I enter something like this, email address is invalid, right? It's going to ask me to enter email address again. And I can just put this. It's not, well, it's checking for the email address format, right? It's using the regular expression to check the format. Well, it's not going to check if it's actual existing email, but, well, it's just showing this. Thank you, the information was sent to the email shortly, okay? And then, of course, always I should be able to exit the application. And the message here that you see here, it depends on a day of the week. So somewhere I'm reading the day of the week and storing, right? Jesus, have a nice Thursday. And the pictures that you see here also is different if it's a weekend. I'm gonna give you the file for this chatbot. So if you run it on different times of the day, you can see that some pictures are different and some messages are different, okay? So this is what we are developing. I gave you a big picture, right? So now we're gonna go through the details. Well, this is how the menu looks like if you're doing from the try it window in the application itself, right? Now, well, here what I did was, this is exactly what I showed you. I spelled it out. Those are the conversation scenarios. Conversation scenario is basically a pass through the diagram, right? You're going to develop the conversation diagram, but you might end up revising it a few times as you develop the chatbot, okay? Now, so here, this is just an example, okay? This is just an example. And I spelled it out for you, explained everything, okay? Now, when this is the blood pressure, those are the scenario I just showed you, right? Okay? We just discussed these scenarios. And this is emails information. You have to enter the invalid, you have to enter the valid information, valid email address, right? But sometimes it could get a little bit annoying if a user if the chatbot keeps on asking and asking and asking. So what I did was, so let's refresh here, let's see. Well, what I tried to do here is that I tried to do the limit, okay? So like, for example, if I do email me the information, right? And I keep on providing invalid email, like I put X. This is an invalid email. It's asking me again. I'm going to put Y, right? It is also invalid email. Then I'm going to do this. It's also invalid email. Do you see what's happening? So do you see this? This is what I did here for the email. I have a counter here. If on 3 attempts the user does not provide what the chatbot is looking for, it just shows the message, sorry, the valid email required to send you an information. It just exits, right? So you should be able, in general, should be able to break the cycle. It should not be asking you indefinitely, please enter a valid email address, please enter valid email address, right? It should not be doing it repeatedly like that. And you should be able to exit from certain part of the logic, right? So here, just I'm just giving you an example. Here, in the email logic, I have a counter, and each time the user does not provide what is expected, the counter goes up by 1, right? So that's what it does here. Now let's go back to the slides. Okay, well, this is a scenario on the exit, and you're gonna see if you're running it in the weekend, you're gonna see this message. Okay. Now there is another exit scenario in the application. If your blood pressure is dangerously high, it's gonna exit an application and it's gonna tell you that you have a crisis and you need to go to the doctor immediately. This is one of the another exit criteria. Okay. Now, well, this is a conversation flow diagram, and that's basically how it's look now. You gonna launch right an app, and the doctor on duty is gonna welcome you, and then you see the menu what you can do, right? And each option in the menu is a separate branch, right? And there are different decisions. Like, for example, the input must contain a number, right? If it asks you to enter the blood pressure reading, well, you can even type something like my blood pressure is 120. It's going to recognize 120 from the input. All right. It's going to extract it from the input. If the input does not contain a number, do that, something like that. So this is just a diagram that you need to have, right? Again, your work cannot be graded without this diagram. Now, I just spelled it out for you, but this is nothing new. But the way you do this, you're gonna create the new skill, right? But what else it shows in here is this. Let's take a look at this. So that's what's an assistant. Well, what it's trying to show you, in order to submit the assignment, right? This is a dialogue skill. You would have to click here on the dialogue skill, and you would need to select the download. So that's gonna be the JSON file that you're gonna be submitting, right? Okay, that's a JSON file that you can be submitting. But another thing is that I'm gonna give you the JSON file for Mr. BMI. What you will need to do is this: to see what is to actually load it, right? Okay, so let me close it. I'm gonna do slower. See this? You're gonna do this: create skill, right? And you're gonna do the dialogue skill, right? Then you're gonna do next. Now, for your assignment, for your walkthrough, you just did create skill, right? You just did this. I'm gonna give you the Mr. BMI just to watch what I did, right? And as an example. So what you will do is this: you're gonna go upload skill. Here you're gonna select the file, right? Drag and drop or select, and then you're gonna find that file in your folder wherever you saved it, and then you can upload, right? This is what you're gonna do with the files that I'm giving you tonight. But for your assignment, when you're creating the new skill, you're gonna do this: create skill. Okay. Now I'm gonna close this out for a second. Let's next. Okay, and then, well, most of you should probably be familiar right now with intents and entities, right? And here, well, I just spelled it out, the different types of entities. Right here, there is my entity. This is the entities that you create, and there are also the system entities. In my case, I'm using dates and I'm using numbers. Remember, I'm using numbers to get the blood pressure, whatever person enters, right? I'm reading the numbers from the keyboard, right? And also for the dates, I'm looking at the date of time of the date, right? And the day of the week. So that's where I'm using the days. Okay. So remember, system entities are pre-built and they start with SYS. So this is just like a reserve name. You cannot add them manually. You can only enable or disable, right? But user entities, you add them manually, all right? And you cannot have the name start with SYS because that's a reserved prefix, okay? Now, well, here I just spelled out there are different ways to add user entities. You can add them manually or you can import, right? Well, the reason you're asked to import in the walkthrough because if you were asked to do that manually, then your walkthrough document would have been 100 pages long at least. Okay, so in general, just know that, right? It's just a review. And what is this? This is a dialogue, right? And what I did in here, I spelled it out. Well, because when I was initially developing this chatbot, it was a slow process, right? In the beginning, it did not have anything like this and anything complex. It was just the student's question on how to work with numbers, right? So I was gradually adding to it and I was taking notes on what I was doing. And right now I'm just letting you have a copy of those notes. So what's gonna happen in here is when you start creating your chatbot, you're gonna have a pre-built notes, welcome note and anything else note. Welcome note is the very first note. Make sure that in the chatbot implementation, you have the very first note called welcome notes. It triggered when the conversation starts, all right? So usually it's gonna be a greeting and it's gonna explain what the chatbot is, right? You're not gonna say something like, hi, how can I help you? Because you don't know. As a user, you're confused. You don't know what to answer, right? Then anything else note is the last note in the conversation. And I need to mention this. The behavior of anything else note is different when you have a search skill. Without the search skill, anything else note is going to tell you that your input is not recognized, right? Try to enter again, right? So anything else note in general handles everything that notes above it, anything that notes above it cannot handle, right? But here is the conversation chain. It's going to start this. It's going to start, okay, is it the first thing in the conversation? If yes, right? It's going to do welcome note. But then it's going to go in and check. When you type the input, it's going to go check if any of these entry conditions are true, right? So are you asking to email? Are you asking to estimate the BMI? Are you asking goodbye? Or are you asking about the blood pressure readings, etc.? Right? Or if nothing was recognized, it would usually go to the anything else node and it will say, okay, I did not get your meaning, can you do this and this, right? But when you have a search skill, the behavior is a little bit different. It will attempt to search your repository for whatever for the information that you entered, okay? So please, if you have a search skill, do not attempt to use any of the variables in the anything else node because they're not gonna work. Because whenever you have a search skill, it's gonna take the search skill behavior, and there is a way to turn on and off. Okay, but just remember this. Remember how anything else node behaves. If you have a search skill, usually it will go and attempt to search for the topic that it does not recognize, like right, like for example, here is it, right? If I type something like lungs, it will attempt to search my document repository on articles for lungs. Well, for some unknown reason, it did not find anything, right? Well, I can type heart and it might find something, okay? Well, okay. It depends on the number of documents in your repository and etc. I have not taken much time to train it because, well, due to unforeseen circumstances, I had to rebuild my repository a couple of days ago. Okay, but anyway, what it will do is that when you type something that is not recognizable, right, it will attempt to do the search. Or in fact, I could do this. I could try refresh. Let's see. And if I can type something like, let's see what it's gonna do. It's supposed to search. It will attempt to search my database for this. But anyway, okay, so I have 1,000 documents, right? And it will attempt to search all of my documents. Okay, now another thing is, let's come back to here. Well, what is this here? Information on the topic. So let's go to the dialogue. Sometimes you may be able to you may have some notes with a sort of like a similar functionality, and you can add this folder and kind of like that you can expand or collapse. This is information on the topic, and I explicitly specify what to do, like when you explain the BMI. and explain the blood pressure, right? I have explicitly here. So those two notes, I kind of put them in a folder, so that way it's the conversation is easier to follow. You can just collapse, okay? You can expand and collapse, right? Now let's go here, slides. Well, I know it's a lot of slides, but some of it is for you just like a notes, but I'll see. Well, okay. Well, let's see. How am I doing these pictures here? So, well, see here, this is my welcome note, right? In the welcome note, I have 3 responses, right? And it says if it recognizes now, what is now? Now is the current date and time, right? And it says if now is before this time, then I want to see this text and this image, right? So let's see. If now it's after 5, right? Then I want to see this text and this image, right? Otherwise, I want to see the different text and image. But okay, let me explain you this. Anything else here? This is not an anything else node. What it means here, if it's now between midnight, well, see here, the first condition is checking if now is between midnight and 10 a.m. In here, this is checking if now is between 5 p.m., right, and midnight. But otherwise, if the time is not before 10 and is not after 5, right, so that's going to be the time interval between 10 and 5. I'm going to show this text and this image. But how do you see exactly? I click on this gear and I can see here, see this is a response text and this is a what response image. You cannot copy and paste the images directly, but you have to specify the URL. You want to make sure that the image URL contains something like this, JPG. It must be the image file. It's not the actual URL itself where the image is. It's an address of an image. And you cannot do what? You cannot copy and paste the image here, okay? Well, this is optional. You can add the description. Alternative text is the text that you see if you hover over the image, okay? Now, and listen, I did not put anything here. This will default to the node settings, but well, the whole idea of this is called conditional response. It responds based on the current time, right? And then jump to, it will go to the main menu node. Main menu, this is a child node in here, and it's gonna go to evaluate responses. Now notice it here. I put enter condition true. Well, never have enter condition true on a parent node. Child node, it's understood, but see that if you have it anywhere in the parent node, it will always execute that parent node and it will never go below that parent node, no matter what, okay? But in this case, this is a child node. So what I wanted to happen is that I want everything in the welcome node to be executed, then go here. Oh, well, what am I doing in here? I'm defining 2 variables here. Well, see this set context. You are shown a different way to do it in a walkthrough. You're defining the name, right? You are you're editing the actual, you're looking at the actual OpenJSON editor and editing the actual code in the JSON editor. At the time when the walkthrough was actually, initial version was written, this thing here was not available. Now it is. So Caesar set the context. What I'm doing here, I'm extracting the current date, and this format, it means I want to have the date completely spelled out, not the day completely spelled out, not the day abbreviation, but the day of the week completely spelled out. And this one here, attempt, I'm using it in the email part of the logic, right? So here I want to make sure that the user is not prompted to enter an email more than 3 times, right? So if you enter something incorrect, then it's not gonna be, you're not gonna be stuck in a loop. All right. Well, this one, well, it's a little bit hard to understand the first time you see it. This is how you do the options, this response. Some of you, if you're familiar with the HTML, right? Each option has a display label, like what the user sees, and value is actually what happens when that option is selected. In this specific scenario, the value is going to be an intent that gets triggered when you select the specific option. Well, in other words, selecting the estimate BMI option is equivalent to typing BMI in the input, right? So here, if I want to estimate BMI, right? So, okay, let's refresh. If I want to estimate my BMI, I can see this, selecting this option in here, estimate BMI, is similar to just typing the BMI in here, right? If I type BMI, it's gonna trigger this. See this, what is your height in inches? It's the same thing happens, see? What you do is here, you specify the name of the intent, that should be triggered, right? When that option is selected. So that's what the value is, right? Okay, well, I hope that makes sense. So this is how you do the options. And why you do the options, it's because it's much easier for a user can know what exactly the chatbot could expect, right? So that's more user-friendly, and it reduces the likelihood of the unrecognized input, right? So you are asked to discuss how you handle the unrecognized input, and here you kind of like reducing the likelihood of the unrecognized input because you're providing the list of the options that the chatbot can handle, okay? Now let's take a look at this one. Well, and this I use it from the documentation, right? Now it means the current time, then see this before and after, those are the methods. All right, well, and this is a blood pressure configuration. It's gonna ask you, well, remember the slot functionality until it, well, see this, until it recognizes. So this is actually explained blood pressure node, right? So that's the one in the folder. So if it recognizes explain, that's an intent, and a topic is an entity, right? Because, well, how to tell? Well, please understand this. The intent is an action. It's something that you want to do, right? For example, I want to explain something, right? But entity, it kind of like qualifies the intent. What do I want to explain? I want to explain the topic, right? Topic about and the topic is blood pressure, so topic, right? I want to explain instructions, something like that, right? Or another example would be an intent is to turn on, right? And an entity could be what you can turn on, the radio, the air conditioning, the light, etc., right? So that's gonna be the entity. But see this topic, but the topic, each entity can have it has multiple value, right? The blood pressure, topic blood pressure. So see this, but because the blood pressure contains the space, so that's why you see this in parentheses, right? And what it's doing, it's displaying the text. And here, yes, I do need to show you because it's also calling the search. This the search skill. Sorry. Okay, here. Well, let's take a look at this. This is an explain BMI, and you need to know this piece here because, well, okay, there are different response types in here. As you can see over here, this is a text, right? This is a text. And what are these? These are the response variations. Because if I hit that node again, I don't want the chatbot to be a parrot, right? I don't want it to repeat yourself. I'm going to select one of these three. Now, this is an image, right? So far, so good. Specify image source, right? But what is this? This is the search skill that I have, right? This is a search skill. And I'm passing the string body mass index, right? And I want to see just body mass index. When I'm calling it from this location, I want to see only what's related to the body mass index, okay? You may have to play a little bit with the queries, okay? Now, well, this is what it's gonna do. It's gonna call the search skill. But in order for this to work, in order for this to test, you must add your dialogue skill and a search skill to the assistant, and I'll show you that. Okay, well, it's a lot of concepts here. So please work early because you might run into some issues. You cannot eliminate the issues, okay? But, well, you cannot do this. If I try to do this here, right? Well, I can do, like, what is blood pressure? You cannot you cannot test the search skill in here. See this? Well, see this? It's telling you that it's calling the search skill, but you cannot actually see the results. Because in order to review what actually gets returned, you have to have an assistant and call this from assistant, okay? Now, okay. So, well, this is gonna be a little bit, well, I'm just showing you different response types, right? I just talked about this. I talked about the option response type, but here I just explained it, okay? Now, this is how you read the number. You have the slots, but okay, so let's go here to the chatbot implementation. So here's the chatbot implementation. And when I go back to the, well, this is a blood pressure reading, for example, right? So up here, let's close this here. Let's go up here. What I'm doing is this. I'm checking for the number. Do you see this? Well, this is a system entity, right? I want to make sure that my input contains a number, and I keep on asking to enter the the blood pressure, systolic, and then diastolic, right? So I'm trying to read the number, and I'm saving this as context variable, right? And in here, I'm doing some of the calculations. I'm saying, okay, if the systolic blood pressure is less than 0 and diastolic, right? Then I'm gonna do something here, right? It's an invalid. I want to handle it as invalid. Now here, this is a different. If it's below 65, well, otherwise, if it's below 65 for the systolic and diastolic below 45, then this is a response, right? This is you have to go to the doctor immediately. Your blood pressure is too low, and this is low, and etc. So the message and the next action depends on what the readings are. Now, and how do I do the? So here I'm not doing much calculations, but in the BMI, I'm doing the calculation. In here, estimate BMI. Well, this is a little bit difficult because I'm doing the calculation here. Jesus, let's look at this. Well, in here, what it's doing is that it takes whatever was entered in a weight, it multiplies by 703, and then it divides by the height squared. That's just a formula. And this is how it's checking it. And based on the value of the BMI, it shows a different message. Okay, it shows a different message. But what this does here, it echoes what you, well, it tries to print the result of this calculation. So that's why you have this question mark here. Okay, this is just the syntax because it's doing the calculation and then it's going to print the result of the calculation, right? It calculates your BMI and it outputs. So trust me, this little thing took me some time to get to work at some point. So please don't leave it to the last minute. Those things are gonna bite in the end. Okay. Now next thing is oh well this is how to edit this, right? The email. Email is a little bit tricky because first of all you have to have in my entities you have to have this email entity and you have to do here you have to do the pattern. See this? You have to do this is a pattern type pattern and the value. This is a regular expression for the email, right? You can have more than one possible expressions. Like for example, suppose that you have a phone number for the phone number, you have local phone numbers and you have international. You're gonna have two expressions, right? You can have more than one expression, but you need to have at least one entity like this, right? That's pattern entity. You can match email, you can match somebody's phone number, or you can do something called the social security, right? Or something, some type of number, not actual social security, but maybe like a PIN number, perhaps 4-digit PIN number. You want to make sure that somebody entered 4 digits, etc. Right? Well, so that's regular expression, and this was, well, use documentation. This is a code reuse, right? That's not cheating. This is a code reuse when you take these expressions from the documentation and you adapt them to what you're doing in your chatbot. This is fine, okay? Now, well, this is done in here, but then I also have the intent and an intent called email me. So this is basically, I'm asking to receive the information, right? Now in the dialog, you have a node. I have a node that gets triggered by the email me. And this is a little bit tricky because, well, what is it doing here? It's checking for what? For email. And what's an email? Remember, email is an entity, right? Email is a pattern entity. It's checking for that pattern entity in the user's input, and it's going to save it into this variable, right? And this is a prompt, right? So this is, I'm using slots to ask you, I'm using slots to prompt you for the email address. And well, somewhere in here, I'm checking, I have to be checking the counter, right? Well, see this? Well, I'm gonna do this if I'm checking the attempt, right? So if the attempt is great, if the attempt is greater than 1, right? I have to ask, sorry, valid email is required, right? I have to re-ask. But oops, yeah, so see this over here, anything else, right? And it says that so see this here, if attempt is greater than 1, it's gonna say that sorry, valid user email required. Otherwise, it's gonna show this message, right? Please enter the valid email address. But somewhere I have a logic to do what? To exit, right? And let's see what's happening. So in here, this logic here, it's just gonna do, it asks the email, right? So first it asks the email, then it's gonna just ask this, right? Now let's go back. Let's see, oops. Yeah, I won't discard the changes. And in here, well, see this in here, it just doing this. There is somewhere it's setting the email to the dummy value X. So basically, if I exhausted the number of available attempts, right, I'm setting it to X. So see this, if I go down here, I think this is a context. Let's see what it's doing. This is a JSON editor, right? You can do it this way. You can see this, you're asked in your walkthrough, you're editing this here, JSON editor, right? Or this is a context editor. In this case, you're not doing anything, right? But I'm just showing you, what I did was I just showed you two ways to access your variable. Oh, there it comes. Well, see this here? What I'm doing is that if you already used more than one attempt, right? First of all, in the beginning, attempt equals 0, right? So attempt number 0, if it was attempt number 0, then it's just gonna increment it then by 1, right? But, well, what I'm doing here is this. If attempt is greater than 1, if we exhausted the number of attempts, it's gonna set this to the dummy, right? It's gonna set the email to the dummy variable X, right? And in here, it's gonna increment by 1. See this? So what this is doing is this, right? It's just going to increment this by 1, right? Because you're setting the limit on number of attempts, right? And then in here, if email is not equal to X, right? X is a dummy value. When you exhausted the number of attempts, it's going to set it to X. And in here, if it's not a dummy X, right, then it's gonna do this. It's gonna say that information will be entered, will be sent, and what is this? You're trying to output, right, the value in a variable. It's gonna echo this here, right? Now, another thing is this. I wanted to show you when you are, as you're working on developing this, first of all, I clear to start from the beginning. Well, let's see this estimate BMI. Well, take a look at this. I started running my chatbot. Do you see this manage my context? You can use this, you can look at this to troubleshoot what's happening, right? Okay, so attempt is basically for email, right? There is nothing. Here, I have not specified, I have not answered any of this question, right? So it's gonna ask you here, what is your height in inches, right? So I'm entering my height in inches. Let's try just do this just for fun. My height is 60, right? Well, I misspelled, but that's fine. My height is 60. Well, let's see what it's gonna do. It's just gonna recognize that it's 60, right? Well, what is this? Over here, it shows me that it read the number entity, system number entity, and it read 60, right? Now, how many pounds do I weigh? Look what's gonna happen. I'm doing this, but suppose that application is not doing something that I want. I can go here to manage context, and I can see that indeed I have this. See this, I have weight 60. Oh, I mean weight 115 and the height 60. I forgot to tell you. Well, the limitation here. The weight is in pounds and the height is in inches. The limitation of the application, it does not allow you to choose metric units, okay? So future enhancement would probably be to allow different metric units, okay? So we've got that here, right? But if I was gonna say this, email me, well, let's clear. Well, I'm gonna say this, email me the information, right? Watch here, what is this? In the context, attempt is 0. I'm gonna go back in here and I'm gonna put an invalid email. It's an X, right? I put an X. Well, what's gonna happen to my attempt? I go in here, attempt is 1, right? Well, is attempt greater than 1? No, it's not, right? Attempt is not greater than 1. So let's see, let me see, put this, right? Well, let's see what's gonna happen. What is attempt set to? Now it became greater than 1 because I added 1, right? I incremented 1 by 1, but it was not greater than 1, right? First time it was 0, then it was 1. Now if I enter it incorrect, if I enter it incorrectly now, right? Because see now it's 2, right? It's greater than 1. So if I enter it incorrectly, it's gonna exit. See this? But if it's not doing what you think it should be doing, you need to check this. And what else it's gonna do? It's gonna reset this to 0. Okay? Well, you want to be looking at this if you're troubleshooting, if you're not getting what expected, right? Well, here I just spelled it out what I'm doing, right? And you're gonna find this well, what I'll do, a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff I explained, some of the stuff I'm going to leave in you as a homework for you. I'm going to give you these slides and I'm going to give you the implementation. You'll need to import that JSON file to actually see what I'm doing. But, well, this is just showing you the test that I ran in actual chatbot, right? In the chatbot preview, I ran it here. And I'm showing you that it's recognizing the numbers in the user input, right? Because I'm using the number system, a number entity. And this is another test. Well, I'm gonna let you look at this at your leisure. But here, Watson Discovery integration, well, the idea here is that I want to search the collection of documents and I want my sources to be the latest. It's gonna service is gonna extract the information from specific collection. I'm creating the source skill. I'm making the source skill to communicate with my dialog. Okay, like I have to call the source skill from the dialog. If that's one way. Another way is that anything else node. If the user input is not recognized, it's gonna attempt to do what? To search, right? Okay. Now, what you'll need to do? You're gonna add the search skill, right? And as you add it for the first time, you would have to create the Watson Discovery Service. Let me address something here. All of you live in the different locations, right? There are different locations like Dallas, London, Frankfurt, etc. Some locations do not have the light version of the service. If your location does not have the light version of the Watson Discovery Service, what you need to do is you just choose a different location, and this is it, right? So in the Discovery Service, if you go back to the catalog, right? Well, if I go back to the catalog, if I was going to create my Discovery Service, right? I may not be able to, depending on where I'm located. My location might not have the, let's see, my location might not have the service that, see this is the Watson Discovery, right? My default location is what, Dallas, right? Because I live in the East Coast, and I don't have the light plan in my location. Well, what you want to do is you want to search other locations. For example, Sydney does not have it, right? Tokyo does not have it. But what you do is I know for sure that London has it. Okay, then that's it. You're gonna select this London. You're gonna do I have read, and then you're gonna do create. I cannot do it because I already have one instance. Another thing is that how do I emphasize this better? Please do not delete the discovery service, and please do not delete this repository. Because when you attempt to delete the repository or when you attempt to delete the service, it does not delete it completely. Okay, it does not reclaim the storage. So it's like it's not there, but it's there. You won't be able to get another instance of the discovery service. And let's say it cannot be fixed, okay? It cannot be fixed. I have a little crack that worked last semester, okay? I hope it still works, but please, let's not get into this situation. But last semester, what I had to do, the student did not follow instruction, deleted the Watson Discovery, and could not add another instance. What I had to do is I had to run the PowerShell, and I had to run some script. I had to ask the student for IBM Cloud username and password. Yes, some students mind it. Some students don't want to give credentials, but if you did not pay attention, if you deleted the discovery service, you have two options. You might lose 10% on the assignment, right? Or another option, you have to give me your credentials. Because what I had to do is I had to run a script on their account. And I had to log into their account in a PowerShell. So, but please do not delete the repository, okay? Promise yourself, promise me you're not gonna do that. Okay, so this is free. You're gonna select free and then you're gonna do create, okay? Well, now another thing, there are a lot of things to cover here, but this was important, right? Well, search skill has multiple settings as well, right? So let's go back here. This is the skills. Search skill, you cannot export it, just remember. Well, and I called it medical information. This is in my case. Okay, let's minimize it. So what this does, it says this is a discovery service, and this is a collection name in the discovery service. What I could do is I could click here. Well, this takes me straight to my discovery service, and this is my repository, all right? Well, I wanted to show you something here because I don't want you to be scared by the errors because, well, see this is a number of documents that I have. For some reason, it took me about one night to build this. And do you see this? It's still running well. It's because it's a dynamic, right? It's dynamic. It's gonna keep on refreshing. You're gonna see some warnings, but don't worry. Well, it's because some of the child pages do not have the question answer pairs. Okay. Well, basically, the good side that you want to use is something that has a bunch of articles or something like question and answer, and it has to be related to your topic. Okay. Well, see this, and here, this is a synchronization setting. This is a URL. So people, look, if by accident, if you use the incorrect URL to build your repository, do not delete the repository. What you could do is go here. See this, you open the repository. See this, I clicked here to open up my repository directly. And well, what you could do is you can edit the URL, right? And then you click on save and sync, okay? You may add another URL here too. Make sure that that URL that you're adding is valid. Otherwise, it's gonna be stuck. It's gonna look like the service is stuck. The service is not generating any document. Because if you enter the URL that is not valid, it cannot access the information, right? Well, I'm just telling you the mistakes that people made last semester. They put the incorrect URL, right? So if you're not getting any results, one thing to do is that Control C, then you go in a new browser tab, you're gonna go Control V, and you want to make sure that the URL that you specified is actually working, okay? WebMD is a good site, good source for articles such as the first response, the health topics, and the fitness topics. But if your chatbot is about the cars, you're not going to use WebMD as a source for your articles, right? You're going to try to use something different. I think there is a site specific on the information about cars, right? Okay, I hope it makes sense, right? Now here you specify how often you want to sync. Well, those are different. What is this is that I did not specify anything, but sometimes you want to eliminate the stop words from the search. See this? It can improve the relevance of your search results, and you can do the synonyms. This part you need to answer the theoretically. You're not asked to actually do the stuff, but you ask how you can improve the relevancy of this result. Okay. Well, it's okay because like here, if some of them error out, don't worry about it because I have like 1,000 to work with. Okay. And this thing, I'll let it run at night. I did not need to sit while it was running, but you know, I didn't need to sit while it was doing this. But I want to make sure that I specify correct URL, right? And that I'm doing it right. Okay. Now next thing is the search skill. Well, you have to trigger the search skill, and I showed you how, right? You're actually calling it response type is search. And also the search skill is triggered in anything else node, right? You cannot test this in a tried window. You have to create the assistant, and I'll show you what I mean. Well, basically, this is the assistant. Go to my Watson assistant here, go back. Well, here are the assistants. When you do it for your assignment, you're just gonna go create an assistant, and you're gonna put a name. Let me do this. Let me do Mr. Cold. Right? I'm gonna put Mr. Cold. I'm gonna say create an assistant, and then, for example, I can do add a dialogue skill. This is a dialogue, and my dialogue is gonna be this: what cold symptoms check? It's just an example. Then I'm gonna add my search skill. Well, but I'm not actually calling it from Mr. Cold, right? But I'm just showing you what you're gonna do, okay? In here, I already have existing search skill, right? You just add this. This is how you would do, and then you would need to do the preview, right? Well, when you do the preview, this is the link that you're gonna share with your friends. Very important. When you do the preview here, this is the link that you're gonna send your friends for the last part of the assignment. Okay, this is where it comes from. And what I will do, I think I'll do this. This is a assistant that I'm demonstrating today, right? Yelena's Healthcare. What I'll do is when I send both instructors slides and a JSON file, right? And recording, what I'll also do is this. That's a gift. Well, I click here. Oops. I need to click on the preview. See, this is assistant here. I'm gonna do this here. Let's click this here. Yelena Healthcare. This is a preview, and what I'll do is this. I'm gonna give this link, okay? Sorry. I'm gonna give this link to instructors, and that way you'll be able to play around with my chatbot, okay? So you're gonna have this link, and you're gonna take this, and you can do the copy and paste, right? And you're gonna see something like this. Sorry. Okay, guys, see this little bubble? You open up this bubble, right? And this is your Watson Assistant, okay? You're gonna have this link. This is just for you to preview, play around with what I demonstrated today, okay? Now, and this link is gonna be valid for, yes, and I need to go over the 30 days thing. When you add the service, let's see, I'm gonna go back to the IBM Cloud, and I'm gonna say again, Watson Assistant. Come on. Okay, so I'm gonna go to catalog. I need to show you something, what I'm doing. Now remember this, you're not entering the credit card information, right? So if you're not entering credit card information, there is no way to charge you, right? So, but look at this. If I go to Watson Assistant, right, this is what you're told to do. You're asked to select this plan, the second one. This one, trial plan, okay? Now, what does the 30 days really mean? Is this, well, your service will be available for 30 days, okay? Once the 30 days elapse, to continue using this, right, you would need to create a new instance of the service. So once the 30 days trial period elapses, you're not going to be charged. You just won't be able to access service. Unfortunately, I'm unable to show you the screens that you're going to see because, well, I had some issues with IBM Cloud, unforeseen issues with IBM Cloud account. And I don't have the service now that elapsed, right? But if I had, I would have showed you the screenshot or the page how it looks like. But if once 30 days elapse, you won't be able to launch the service, but you will see a link that allows you to download all your JSON files. You will be able to still download your JSON files, but you won't be able to use the service once 30 days elapses. So what you would need to do is, well, I realize it's quite possible if any of you have an incomplete, right? If any of you have an incomplete, and if the service here 30 days expire, and you still before you reach your new deadline, right? 30 days will expire, but to continue the work, what you would need to do is you would need to take a JSON file. You would need to add brand new instance of the service from the catalog, right? Select again trial 30 days and import the file, okay? Or if any of you want to play it with it more after class is over, right? We will need to add another service after 30 days. Or sometimes there is an option to extend for 30 more days. You would have to look at it, okay? But good news, it's not gonna charge you once the 30 days elapse. I had to address it because I had students asking. But suppose that you did not pay, well, I'm not gonna tell that you is you, but in general, suppose one of you did not pay attention to instructions and selected this. If you did this, then when at the time when you're gonna be adding the search skill, your search skill button will be unavailable. But at that specific point in time, you will still have an option to upgrade from light to trial. Go ahead and do it, okay? In this specific scenario, an upgrade from light to trial, yes, because you were supposed to select trial, right? If you did not follow the instructions, and if you selected light, right, at the time, when the time comes to add the integration with search skill, you will be prompted to upgrade to trial, do it. But then make sure that you select the 30 days trial. So that way it's not gonna charge you. You don't enter the credit card number, but once the 30 days are done, you're done. You won't be able to use the service. That's it, okay? Now let's see. Because see, I often have people who miss this step of instructions. They select light instead of trial. So just remember that. But, well, see this, I just showed you how to add the skills, right? I showed you how to add a search skill, right? Well, I showed you the link. Interface changes, right? This is how it looked like before. But today, well, you're gonna look, you're gonna, what you'll do is you're gonna open this, what's an assistant, right? Oops, see this, you're gonna go to assistant in here, well, and then you click here, and there's gonna be preview button here. And that's where the link is, right? This is where the link is. So let's go ahead. Okay, now. Well, what you have to do is that this is a fun experiment, and you can ask me to be one of your testers as well. You can do, you ask your family members, your friends, okay? Basically, you're gonna give them this link, and you ask them to run 3 to 4 conversations per day. At the end of the first day, you're gonna go to the conversation logs that I'm gonna show you, and you're gonna make necessary adjustments if needed. And then you're gonna take notes on any adjustments of the classifications that you made. Then you're gonna do the second day, and you're gonna see if the relevancy of responses has improved. You're gonna see what your top intent, top entities are, and I'll show you now. And you're gonna discuss, suppose that you were running this experiment for the third day, what else would you do to improve the relevancy further, right? And then you're gonna share the observations in your paper. But well, let's see what I was talking about is this. Well, I'm gonna go back to my here. Well, this is a search skill, right? Not the search skill, sorry. Mr. BMI Help Center. This is a dialogue skill. And a dialogue skill in here, it has the metrics, different metrics. I was running this conversation over the last couple of days, and this is a number of conversations that I did. This is the average number of messages per conversation. This is the maximum number of conversation per day, and see this, there is some weak understanding. And see this? Well, this is just the chart, right? It tells me it's a trend, right? It's just the trend, how much I was working with this. And this is the average messages per conversation, total messages, etc., right? Number of users. I was doing it by myself, so that's why it's showing just me, right? These are the top intents. So this information tells you how the user is using your chatbot. See this? Well, here, apparently, most of the time, the chatbot was used for BMI and for explanation. And this information helps you kind of like prioritize your future chatbot development. If most of the people are interested in BMI, right, rather than the blood pressure, you want to focus on BMI, right? And here, those are the entities. Top entities was the topic, right? Explain the topic. Number, you use numbers, and email, okay? So here just tells me people were using my email functionalities. And you can go into the details of the conversation, right? Well, here, this is the user conversations. And you can open up the conversation. And then when you look at it, if you see like a weak understanding or something like, or like see here, show classification. See this? Well, this one I entered BMI and it read intent BMI. But suppose that this is not what I wanted, I could go in here and I can change the correct intent, okay? So if whatever I entered was misinterpreted as it is, like suppose that, see here, I can change the classification, okay? I can change the classification. And I can choose to do more training on this, right? Well, and etc. But take a look at this in here. In the beginning, when I was at the overview, right, it shows me that I have 17 weak understandings, and I can go to the conversation log and see what exactly it is talking about. Well, see this kidneys. I can open this, and well, this is what I was trying to do. It was calling the search skill, and it was not recognizing it. So maybe I need to do some tweaks to my search skill settings or something like that, right? Well, that's what it is, a weak understanding. And here also, I was trying to enter the incorrect email, right? Here I was searching for the COVID. Well, let's open the conversation. This is what I was trying to do. I was just entering the word COVID, and this was the trying to show the classification, and it's irrelevant. That was anything else. It was triggering anything else. But suppose that if I enter something like, well, I entered here systolic, but here I open the conversation, and actually I want this to be taking me to the blood pressure, right? So this is what I can do. I can go to the here. If I type systolic, what I could do is I can do this here, and I can select my intent, and my intent could be the blood pressure. Well, next time when somebody tells type systolic, it's gonna take to the what? Blood pressure logic, right? And then here it just shows the examples of this intent, right? So, well, that's here, blood pressure, see? I selected the correct intent that I wanted to be activated, and I click save. Then when I'm gonna run the next day, I'm gonna enter the word systolic again, and I want to make sure that it's doing what I just told it to be doing, okay? This is what I mean. But if you did not need to change anything, then you need to explain why. More likely, you're not gonna need to change anything because you did what? You added a lot of the drop downs, right? Didn't you add those option response type, right? Which reduces the likelihood of the unexpected input, right? But well, still, if you let me test your chatbot, I'm gonna try to put some unexpected input, okay? I'm gonna try to do that just to help you. Like for example, suppose that your chatbot is asking about the language, right? And I can try to put something that the chatbot does not recognize. And then you're gonna say, hey, oh, wait a minute. When Elena ran the test, she entered this and my chatbot is not handling. What I'm gonna do with this? I'm gonna handle it as anything else, or what is this? Or is it misclassified, right? Well, something like that, right? Or like for example, language. There like some countries like Belarus, it has Belarusian language. Not too many people are familiar with the terminology, but if I'm running somebody's chatbot, I can enter it as a language and it's not handled, then you're gonna go in and you're gonna check, my user entered this, and how am I handling that? You know what I'm saying? It's just an example. Okay, just an example. Okay, now well, this is just a conversation log. The screenshots, the interface is subject to change, but I'm just giving you the idea, okay? Well, you can open the individual conversation, right? And what is this? Those are the some of the some of the examples, because I did not make up my own expressions, right? I borrowed them from the documentation. And you will be borrowing from documentation, which is fine, because this is called code reuse, right? When you take the expression and you put it based on what you're doing. But nobody here is going to be turning in Mr. BMI or Mr. Cold, okay? Because if this is the case, then both professors will have to add me to their gradebook, and I get credit for the work that you submitted, right? Because see, if I do something for you and you submit my work, then both instructors need to add me to the gradebook and give me the points, right? Because you know, what you submitted has to be your idea. You're not Yelena, right? So if your name is Yelena Betinskaya, then understood. But if you're not me, then you're gonna be submitting your own work, okay? So no Mr. Calls, please. But if somebody does it all the time, and then there are problems. So, okay, you want to have a good finish of this semester, right? And another thing that I recommend every semester, I know that there could be somebody who is struggling with the course. I know that, but I still recommend that you do this assignment, no matter what. Do you know why? Because if you do the assignment, you're gonna get the feedback. Okay, you're gonna get instructor feedback, and even if you have to repeat the course, the feedback will help you when you repeat the course. Okay. So please still do the assignment regardless of your standing in the course. I just recommend, I would, if I was failing the class and this is the last assignment, I would still do it, because I would, if I do it, I would walk away with feedback from instructor, and then you use the feedback to improve when you repeat. So I always say it when I do the walkthrough for the last assignment. I always say that, because if I was taking this class And if I was failing this class, no chance to pass, right? No chance. I would still do this assignment because, first of all, as the work gets graded, you get feedback from instructor, okay? Most important here, feedback, not a grade, but feedback, okay? So please, promise you're gonna do this. Okay, yeah, let's see, I talked a lot. Questions, guys, do you have questions for me? I know that's a lot.
Hi, Elena. This is Michael Goddard. How are you
Hi,
doing
Mike,
today?
yes,
Hi, a quick question for you. Do we need to send, you might have mentioned earlier and I missed it. Do we need to send our information or our link, our preview link to you for review? It said it in the assignment instructions. I didn't know what email to send it to.
Oh, okay. Well, you can put a ticket, and I'm gonna go ahead and test your chatbot. Sure, go ahead, do it. Yeah, I would like to test your chatbot. Why not?
Okay.
Well, because look at this. If I do it, I'm gonna try to put something that the chatbot does not recognize. So then you're gonna see it. You're gonna
Right.
see it. Yes. Or if I notice anything that it's not doing as it's actually expected, I'm gonna make sure that it shows in the log. Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm gonna try to do something interesting with it. So
So
yeah.
is your email address available where or could you put in the chat window so we know who to email to, or do we just send it through UMGC's Leo site, or where do we?
Oh, just put a ticket, Salesforce ticket. Is it okay?
I'll
with
put
it?
a
Because,
ticket in to get you. Okay.
because well, it's easier for us to track that way. Well, it just university wants to track anything that's going on, anything that, yeah. Well, and especially like the errors, yeah, because well, if the errors are tracked, we're gonna go through that and we can see what we can do in the next semester to preempt some of the errors, right? And there is actually one error that I reproduced myself. Sometimes when you attempt to use a discovery service, it's going to give you something like error related to credentials. And you're going to receive this error because, well, the discovery service is taking a little bit of time to provision. So if you receive, I may or may not have taken the, I may or may not have taken the screenshot of this. I may have, but there was an error that, well, just due to unforeseen circumstances, I had to rebuild this repository a couple days ago. Okay, so what I did was I received the error. I received the error message, and I may have saved the screenshot. I may have or may not have. Okay, so I'm looking for it. But there is an error message that yells about the credentials of the discovery service. Okay, no, that's not it. Anyway, I may or may not have saved it. But if you see an error message when you attempt to use the discovery service, create a repository. If you see an error message related to credentials, it's because your service is still provisioning. Okay. Oh no, that's not it. Oh, this is a screenshot from one of your classmates. I was trying to show that you need to click on this drop down and you need to select a different location. One of your classmates tried to use Dallas, but Dallas does not have the free plan. They keep on changing it. See, it's very hard to tell because they keep on changing it. Dallas location had a free light plan before, was a discovery service. Now it does not. So, yeah. And you want to make sure you set aside enough time for this, for the discovery service. Because, well, it could take hours to run. I ran it at night. I did not need to sit next to PC while it was running, but then in the morning it was ready. Okay. Yeah, but I would like to see a chatbot. Yeah. So, but yes, people, please, I would like to see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. What student did in the past? Something like maybe selling something, like maybe information about the tickets. I've seen that. Information about COVID. I've seen multiple stuff. Car dealership is common topic. Pizza purchase. Yeah, something like that. People do different topics. Okay. Yeah, let me see something in the chat. Oh, you don't have a Visio. Okay, you don't have a Visio.
Hey, here's a tip on that Visio.
Yes.
if you go into your UMGC account and you select your apps and access your apps, there's a
Mhm.
option to access Visio online.
Oh, okay. So this is a, yeah, there should be, right? Apps. Yes, there should be an option somewhere here.
If you click all apps
All apps. Yeah, well, because faculty should have it too. Yes.
and go down to Visio, and then you can,
Oh, here.
yep, and you can create a diagram right there online.
Mhm. So I'm showing you guys my view, the faculty view, but you're gonna have something along this line as a student, and you're probably gonna be saving the work to the OneDrive, because your account, you have some OneDrive space where you can save all of your files. You know that sometimes PCs do something unexpected. You can back up all your student work on a OneDrive. Okay, you can save stuff here. So yes, this is, thank you very much for pointing that out. I hope that answered the video question, right?
Yeah, Lucid Charts is free, but Visio's that'll work fine too. Thank you.
Mhm.
The discovery service that you brought up, that you got to use London instead of Dallas, so you are
Mhm.
able to cross-site between the dialogue service and the discovery service. So it's fine to have your dialogue service be in Dallas, but your discovery service is in London. There's no problem with that.
Yes, no problem, because this is exactly what I just demonstrated.
Okay, cool.
Yes, that's what I did. Yes, because well, there's a separate issue. What happened? Uh, I lost my old IBM Cloud account because it wasn't. Remember how university transitioned from umuc.edu to umgc.edu email? My old account was on umuc.edu email, which is not valid. And for some reason, the password expired. But in order to reset it, I had to have access to email. So somehow I was able to create an account with UMGC detail. And believe it or not, I was still able to use the code. The system still let me use the code, even though I already used it. So anyway, at least I know that I lost some stuff, but at least I was able to rebuild the repository, and at least I have access to the system now. Okay, but yes, I reran this repository 2 days ago, and this is what I have. I have the service in London, Discovery in London, and the Watson Assistant in Dallas. That's what I have. Yeah.
And did you to me it seems like there's the discovery Watson discovery service, which seems to be separate from the Watson discovery what's the right term for it? The
Watson Assistant and Watson Discovery. Well, there are different. Let's see. Let's go to the
yeah, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Yeah. So there's the ability to do it from the catalog, and then there's the ability to set it up as a skill. Are they the same service?
Same.
Got it.
There are 2 ways to do it. Yes.
Got it. Understood.
Yes, because when we're doing it from the skill, we're setting it up on the fly. Another way to do it is just to add the service and go add the repository. Excellent question. Yes, it's the same
thing. Their pointers to the same place. Got it.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I'm shifting topics from the search service to a different question, if that's okay.
It's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. We're here to answer questions.
In your Mr. BMI Health Center selection, I noticed that your goodbye is in the middle, and I was wondering if it should be above anything else but below everything else.
In the dialogue here, right?
Yeah, the dialogues. If you click on that, you'll find the goodbye. And there's those other things after it. And I just wondered, should goodbye be above the anything else but below the other 2 things, maybe? Or because of the filtering process?
It does not matter. Well, in this case, we need to make sure that the welcome note should be at the top, right?
Right.
And anything else here at the bottom.
Always at the bottom, right?
Yes. But goodbye, well, if it's not a goodbye, it will just skip it. If whatever I type, right, is not goodbye, then it's just gonna skip the goodbye and continue.
Okay.
So, but I agree with you that logically it makes sense to put it below this. I agree with you. Logically, it would make sense, but in this case, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't harm anything. I gotcha.
Yeah, but I got your point. I might have to check. Yeah, I got your point. Good question.
I'm just your tutorial taught me what I'm is the reason why I'm asking the question. So
No, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead.
all right. And then so you answered that question. I have like 6 questions, so we're rolling through them
fine.
pretty good. Slide 23. How may I help you has options.
Oh,
Slide 23.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. What variable is assigned to the values you list? This is something that bugged me in the tutorial too, and it's bugging me in the prototype that I put together. So okay, so if I say estimate BMI and I pick it, what gets assigned the values? BMI, explain BMI, blood underscore pressure. How do I know later on to see that that value has been set? What variable is it contains that I check?
It's not a variable. It's just intent that gets fired. So in other words, selecting this my blood pressure option is the same thing as typing in blood pressure. It just triggers the intent. Like if select exit, it's the same thing as I type goodbye.
But there's an @ sign topic, and I was wondering if maybe that's the thing that gets the value. BMI, explain BMI, blood pressure.
Where is the topic? See, I don't see that.
I saw it later on in your demo. I thought there was an @ symbol and then a lowercase topic, and I thought they might be related, but I didn't know, which is why I'm asking.
Oh, add, this is the entity. Because when I do like explain, right? This is an intent, right?
Okay.
Explain, yes, this is an intent. And that's an entity. That's what it is. Different, oh. Well,
the
yeah.
BMI, explain BMI are intents, but I think you only had 2 intents, right? Did I misunderstand that?
No, they're more intense. Let me go ahead.
Can you show me that?
Absolutely. So this is here.
Up top, yeah, the very first one, intense.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
Yes.
Okay, so you do have more. So you have, hang on a second. Let me get a screenshot of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, yeah, I got a screenshot. Can you go back to slide 23 for me again?
Okay.
And they should match. So blood pressure is blood pressure, BMI is BMI, emailing me is email me, explaining. Okay, so I got it. So they're intense. Yeah. Thank you very much. Got it.
No problem.
Check.
No problem. No, but this is very
Yeah,
this
they
is
match.
not easy to understand. Yes, but this is not easy to understand. But I'm so glad because see, some people they don't know how to ask the question. So, but I'm glad that you asked because you're a lifesaver. You save it life of many people because you know some people don't ask and then what they do they don't do as well, right? Yes, I wanted to ask.
Cool. And then the last question is, I think it's the last question. Can a skill be consumed by multiple assistants?
Yes. Well, the search skill. Yes, I just did that. Take a look at this.
I thought I saw where you had the same thing listed twice under them. Yeah, see linked assistants 2 under search skill, Mr. Cole, Yelena's healthcare.
Yeah, like Mr. Cole is one assistant, and I have this dialogue, right? And then in here, this is a search skill that I used, right? I just did that. But if you go here, this is the Yelena's healthcare, and I'm using the same search. Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Yeah, but only one dialogue skill in the same assistant.
Only one dialogue. Okay, so the dialogue skill can't be shared by multiple assistants.
Well,
is that
you
what I'm
could,
hearing?
but no, you can. I think you can. Yes, but you can. But what I'm saying, each assistant can have only one dialogue. Each assistant.
Oh yes. Each assistant can only have one dialogue skill, but they also can have an additional search skill. And your tutorial pointed out you can swap one at a time with this account, or something told me you can swap the dialogue skill with an assistant if you desire, either through code or by manually editing it. So understood. that's it. That's all my questions. Thank you. Oh,
Most welcome. Yeah, but I mean, people, yeah, that's an excellent opportunity for you to ask questions because, well, yeah,
that's why we're here. Or at least those of us in attendance, that's why we joined. It's
yes,
excellent. Thank you.
sure. Anybody else? But one
So
thing, yeah,
I sorry, Yelena, I had a question
go ahead.
about the very last the last ungraded exercise on the Mr. Cold tutorial.
Yes.
There was and I think I handled the right way, but I wanted to get confirmation on it. So there was a question about if you asked the bot if you had your flu shot and you prompted a person to say answer yes or no, and if you answered no, the bot would do one thing, and if you answered yes, it would basically say, you know, hey, reminder to get, you know, or good job getting your flu shot or whatever. The way I handled that was I just created two separate intents, one for a yes answer and one for a no answer. But is there a more elegant way to do that?
In here? Well, since it's a feeling well, right?
Okay.
Since it's feeling well,
Yep.
and it's gonna go in here. It's gonna ask if you had a flu shot, right? Jesus had a flu shot, and then it's gonna go to the responses here. And if the response is yes, then excellent. See, had a flu shot has two values, yes or no, right?
Okay.
That's what it's doing. It's doing like this.
Okay. So you're using a colon separator in between the intent. So or actually that's an
Value.
entity.
It's
Yeah.
an entity value. That's what it is. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
it's entity. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Is there a way you could share that JSON file of that one with us also, just so we have that as a reference?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So, yes. So I'm gonna give few things to instructor. I'm gonna give them the link to this recording. I'm gonna give the slides, both JSON files, right, for this Mr. Cold and for the what I showed today. And I'm gonna give the preview link for the chatbot that I showed today, right? Because, well, when you export, you cannot actually export the search skill, right? So probably the best way for me to show you this is to give you the link. Oh, and another thing, that question came up last semester. There is no limit on the capacity hours for this assignment. There is no limit on capacity hours. Well, there is a limit on number of API calls, but please don't worry, nobody ever reached even 1/10 of that limit. There is a monthly limit on number of API calls, but please don't worry. Nobody ever reached even 1/10 of that limit. So you don't need to worry about anything here. No capacity hours. Is that a good news or bad? Good, right? No capacity hours. Anything else?
I just want to get a screenshot of that, if you can keep it on that screen,
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
please.
Yes. So, yes, there's more than one way to do it, but yeah, that's the solution.
Yeah, my way wasn't the most elegant, so this is a
Fine.
lot better. So thank you.
Yeah, most welcome. I mean, you know, if I was going to redo it from scratch, I would probably do it differently. Yeah. So, but like anything else I can answer? Well, I hope this session is helpful. I hope it's helpful. Yeah. So, are there any other questions? Anyone else has questions? Okay, let's see if the instructors. Oh, let something in the chat. I see something in the chat. Let me check. Oh, okay, it was very helpful. Good, good, good. So let's see, other instructors still here? Participants. Okay, instructors. Okay. Now, anything else, guys? Any other questions? No? Well, if there are no more, okay, let's see in the chat something. Okay, no problem. So if there are no more questions, then I'm gonna end this session. And I'm going to, whenever recording is ready, I'm gonna send everything to instructor. How does it sound? Sound good? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna end this recording and stop sharing, and good luck with this assignment.